Welcome to The Explainer. Let's jump right in, because today we're tackling something literally every single human on Earth has dealt with at some point. We've all been there, right? You wake up, your forehead is absolutely burning, you're shivering under a pile of heavy blankets, and you just feel like you've been hit by a truck. In that miserable moment, your very first instinct is probably to panic. And that panic usually leads to one big question. How long is this going to last, and when does it actually become dangerous? There's this huge myth out there that a fever is a disease actively harming you. But the truth is, your fever is actually your body trying to save you. Still, there is a strict timeline for exactly how long you should let your body fight before calling in professional backup. Okay, let's dive right into our definitive rulebook for today. First, we'll look at the fever itself. Then we'll cover the 3-day rule for adults, followed by the 5-day rule for kids. After that, we'll talk about the critical red flags when symptoms completely trump the timeline. And finally, we'll wrap up with the practical takeaways. Section 1. The fever itself, your body's defense system. So what exactly is a fever? Well, it's actually a deliberate, highly controlled increase in your body's internal temperature. When your immune system detects an invader, like a virus or bacteria, it sends chemical signals to a part of your brain called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus acts on those signals and just cranks up the heat. Why? Because most germs absolutely thrive at your normal body temp of around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius. By raising the heat, your body makes it incredibly difficult for those germs to survive and multiply. Plus, that extra heat actually makes your immune cells move faster and fight harder. So, when you catch the flu, you aren't shivering because the room is cold, you're shivering specifically to generate the heat needed to reach that new goal set by your brain. Think of your brain as a smart thermostat, and your immune system as a security team. When the security team spots intruders, the germs, they text the smart thermostat to turn the heat up to, say, 102 degrees to literally smoke those intruders out of the house. But here's where we run into a massive misunderstanding. People often panic at the very first sign of a mild fever and take fever-reducing meds unnecessarily, trying to, quote-unquote, cure the fever. If you do that, you're essentially just turning off the house's alarm system. You're actively making it easier for the germs to stick around because you're turning down the exact heat they hate. What's truly fascinating is the sheer amount of energy this whole process takes. For every 1 degree Celsius, which is about 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, your fever goes up, your body's metabolic rate increases by approximately 10 to 12.5%. That means your body is burning through a massive amount of energy just to keep you hot and fight off the infection.
Section 2. The 3-day rule for adults, or the 72-hour danger zone.
If you're a healthy adult, a fever that lasts for more than 3 days, or 72 hours, without getting better, puts you in the official danger zone. Common everyday bugs like a cold or the stomach flu usually run their course, and your fever should break within 3 to 5 days. But if you're still burning up after 72 hours, it usually means your innate immune system couldn't clear the invader on its own. You might have a hidden bacterial infection like pneumonia or a UTI that actually requires antibiotics. Put it this way, say you get a nasty cough and a fever on a Monday. You rest, you drink your soup, you wait it out. But if you wake up on Thursday morning and your forehead is still burning hot, you've got to stop waiting. The 3-day clock has run out and you need to call your doctor for backup. A brilliant way to remember this is the fire alarm analogy. A short fever is like a fire alarm in your house ringing for 10 minutes. You probably just burned some toast. It's a false alarm, no big deal. But if that alarm rings continuously for 3 days straight, the house is probably actually on fire and you definitely need a fire department. Ignoring this timeline can have serious consequences. If you ignore a fever lasting longer than 3 days, what might have been a highly treatable, localized infection can spread into your bloodstream, and that can lead to a life-threatening full-body emergency called sepsis. As a quick, super interesting medical side note, if a fever somehow lasts for more than 3 weeks without a clear reason, doctors actually give it a special, mysterious classification. They call it a fever of unknown origin, or FUO. Section 3. The 5-day kid rule and the infant exception. Now, kids handle fevers completely differently than adults. For a child under 5 years old, a fever lasting 5 days or more is a major red flag. This can actually be a sign of a rare but serious illness called Kawasaki disease, which causes dangerous inflammation in the blood vessels and heart. However, and this is absolutely crucial, for an infant under 3 months old, any fever is an immediate emergency on day 1. Their immune systems are totally immature. They can't fight off infections yet, meaning a simple bug can become deadly in a matter of hours. So contrast those two. If your 3-year-old has a fever for 4 days but is still playing with toys and drinking juice, you just monitor them. But on day 5, they must be evaluated by a pediatrician. On the flip side, if your 6-week-old baby feels hot, you drop absolutely everything and go directly to the emergency room immediately. No waiting, no monitoring. Think back to our security guard analogy. A newborn baby's immune system is like a rookie security guard on their very first day of work. They just don't know how to fight, so they need backup immediately. An older child's immune system is more like a junior guard. They can handle a scuffle for a few days, but if the fight lasts for 5 days, they need the boss to step in and take over.
The consequences of ignoring these specific timelines for kids are severe. Ignoring a 5-day fever in a toddler can lead to permanent heart damage if they happen to have Kawasaki disease. And ignoring a newborn's fever can lead to a tragic, rapid spread of bacteria into their spinal cord or blood.
But to balance out that scary information, here's a reassuring fact for parents. In healthy children, a sudden spike in a fever can sometimes cause what's called a febrile seizure. Now, while this is absolutely terrifying for parents to watch, these seizures are generally harmless and do not cause any brain damage. Section 4. When symptoms trump the timeline, the red flags.
Sometimes the timeline goes straight out the window. If an adult hits a fever over 103 degrees Fahrenheit or a kid hits 104 degrees, you need immediate medical attention. Or let's say you start feeling sick at noon. By 6 p.m., just 6 hours later, you've got a fever, a splitting headache, you're highly confused, and you physically cannot bend your chin down to touch your chest because you have a stiff neck. You completely ignore the 3-day rule. These are signs of potential meningitis, a deadly brain infection. You go to the ER immediately because delaying care here can lead to permanent brain damage, coma, or death within hours.
Counting the days of a fever is kind of like checking the expiration date on a carton of milk. But severe symptoms, that's like opening the milk and seeing that it's bright green. You don't wait 3 days to see if bright green milk is bad. You throw it out immediately. There are 2 other critical conditions where time is completely irrelevant. When your core body temperature exceeds 106.7 degrees Fahrenheit or 41.5 degrees Celsius, it's called hyperpyrexia. This is a massive medical emergency where your cells and proteins literally begin to cook and fail. Then there's hyperthermia, like heat stroke from a really hot day. In hyperthermia, the brain has lost temperature control completely, meaning the body is absorbing way more heat than it can shed, and standard fever-reducing medicines like ibuprofen just will not work at all.
Section 5. The practical takeaway. What should you do differently?
Huge congratulations. You now actually understand the timeline of a fever. You know the difference between the body fighting off a standard bug and an alarm bell ringing that requires professional help. So here's your ultimate cheat sheet to remember. For adults, you watch the clock and call the doctor after 3 days. For kids under 5, you monitor them and call the doctor after 5 days. And for infants under 3 months, you skip the clock entirely and go straight to the ER.
To wrap this explainer up, let's review these golden rules one last time. Don't panic immediately. Remember that fever is your body's defense weapon. Watch the 3-day clock for adults and the 5-day clock for kids. Remember the infant exception. Any fever under 3 months means the ER. And finally, if you see red flags like a temp over 103 for adults or severe symptoms like a stiff neck, confusion, or trouble breathing, ignore the clock entirely and get emergency help. So, with this definitive rulebook in hand, the next time that fever alarm starts ringing in your house, are you going to panic and pull the battery, or are you going to let your body fight the fire?